What? You sold your home for $50,000 above list price? How is that even possible? Well, right now, believe it or not, it's happening. Hi everyone, I'm Lesli with Lesli Koontz Real Estate and Vista Sotheby's International Realty. So if you saw my previous video, you found out one strategy to make sure you actually keep the amount of money you go into contract for. There are a few more things to consider when selling your house for significantly more than it might appraise for, or considerably more than the neighbors have recently sold for. The first was to see if the buyer would be willing to remove the appraisal contingency altogether. However, many buyers aren't willing to do that. So another alternative, if they aren't willing to remove the appraisal contingency altogether, is to see if any of the buyers are willing to give you a specified amount that they are willing to pay above the appraised value. Obviously not to exceed the agreed upon purchase price. Well, how can this be helpful? Or why would it matter? You see, if someone really wants your home, they may be willing to pay above the appraised value. But as we learned before, the bank is only going to loan on the amount it appraises for. If the buyer removes the appraisal contingency altogether, it's sort of like writing a blank check. They can't know what the home will appraise for, so they have no idea what the difference is and how big of a check they may have to write. So many buyers are afraid to do this. So another option is to have them agree upon a specified amount that they will pay over the appraised value if the home does not appraise. Here's an example. Let's just say that you agreed on a sales price of $1 million and you, as a seller, based upon the advice of your agent, know that the home most likely will not appraise at that amount. The first option would be to counter out the appraisal contingency, and the second option would be to ask the buyer how much they'd be willing to pay over the appraised value. So let's just say the buyer says they are willing to pay $20,000 over the appraised value. If the home only appraised at $950,000, that means that they would be willing to pay $970,000. That would mean you, the seller, would get $30,000 less than what was originally agreed upon in the initial contract, but still more than what you would get if you were held to the appraisal value. Again, there's a lot to consider when selling your home. It's not always just as cut and dried as it may seem. So what's the answer, and how do you protect yourself? Call a professional, call me. I'd love to help you. Tune in next week for more buying and selling tips. Lesli at Lesli Koontz Real Estate, putting your family first.